It would have been very, very easy for me to do a one-take on The Frontrunner. In fact, I was almost tempted to. I saw this film last night and I could have easily just given my thoughts in a one-take. But I've let the film set. And I really think a one-take is the wrong format for this. I need to talk about this in a more collected manner. And I have a lot more to say than I would be saying in a one-take anyway. For those of you who are unaware, The Frontrunner is about Gary Hart's presidential campaign and how it crashed and burned. And the film takes place over 3 weeks, each section getting progressively longer. It's not split up into thirds like a traditional structure. Instead, because each section has more to say, each section takes up a larger portion of the film. Unfortunately, this structure is kind of the film's downfall. The quality of the movie very much matches Gary Hart's presidential campaign. The first week of this movie is absolutely phenomenal. The second week is also really great. And during the third week, everything crashes and burns. And again, the third week makes up more time than the first week and more than the second week, although I doubt more than both combined. From the very start of the movie, I was thinking, oh wow, damn, I wasn't expecting this to be this good. The acting, cinematography, and music are all absolutely phenomenal throughout the entire movie, and they're really impressive in the first week, as I didn't really have the highest expectations for this movie. I especially love that they knew when not to use music. There were certain scenes where music could have felt overbearing, cliched, and unfitting, but they chose not to use it and it really added to the scenes. The writing gets progressively worse throughout the movie. Again, throughout the first 2 weeks it's absolutely phenomenal, but then you enter the third week and it just gets kinda messy. Like every other biopic in existence, there are scenes in this movie that are very clearly added to try and make the story more interesting and did not happen in real life. It's a shame that every single biopic has to have this, and it's a shame that it's always so obvious. If the story isn't as interesting as it is, maybe don't make it a movie, or just don't stretch it out to 2 hours, just have this be a 90-minute movie. If you need to add more scenes that just feel obviously added in, don't add them in. And it's also the case with what was kept. I can't tell what was kept with the dialogue, but it's very apparent that it's much better in the first area of the movie than it is in the final, because oh my god, the dialogue in the third week of this movie is atrocious. There's one scene in a press conference where Gary Hart is asked one very specific question, and all I was thinking was, he's going to say this one very, very specific answer, isn't he? And then everyone in the room's gonna laugh. And that's exactly what happened. Not the room as in the audience though, because whenever the audience laughed in the third week, it was always unintentional. The tone of the third week is meant to be very serious, but the press conference scenes were just so laughable. Many people in my audience were laughing despite the fact that the film really wants you to take it seriously. The film also really suffers from only really having one character whatsoever. Every supporting character in the movie is literally just forgotten. I swear to god, there's like 3 scenes with Gary Hart's wife and only one of them is remotely interesting. J.K. Simmons is criminally underutilized here. Just like every other performance, he was absolutely spectacular, but his character is so rarely in the movie, especially in the third week where you'd expect him to be there more than any other point. None of the news reporter characters were all that interesting, and one of them only existed to serve a Trump reference. Seriously, I am sick of Trump references in movies. I hate him as much as the next guy, but it's just obnoxious now. One of the news reporters actually seemed like they had a character and were going somewhere, but just like every other supporting character in the movie, they were completely forgotten outside of a couple of scenes in the third week. I'm glad that the film spent so much time with Hugh Jackman, as his performance is legitimately best actor worthy. I'd be very happy to see him win the Oscar this year. But while every other performance was fantastic, everyone just feels underused. An issue I had with the entire movie was the audio mixing. There are some scenes where the musical score legitimately drowns out the actors. It wasn't as bad as a film like Aquaman in that aspect, but it was still pretty bad. There were also a couple of scenes that tried to go for some sort of tension, but they were kind of funny. There's a scene with Hugh Jackman in his car, and it's supposed to be like, oh my god, that's weird, but it's really, really funny. At first I thought maybe they were going for that, but then the scene carries out completely seriously and leads to a scene that is clearly pivotal for the film, so I guess we were meant to take this scene seriously. I would like to remind everyone that I do like this movie. The acting, cinematography, and music were all spectacular. A lot of the dialogue was legitimately great. Even if I wish the film had been shorter, I was never bored. And even if the third week was an absolute mess, I'm pretty sure it didn't even take up over half the film. And again, the music, cinematography, and acting were all phenomenal in this area of the film as well. So overall, I don't know where I stand on this movie. There are some other things I didn't get into, but I just don't feel like they're worth getting into. But, you know what, score-wise, I think I've made up my mind. I'm gonna give The Frontrunner a 6 out of 10. Even if I felt underwhelmed, I do not regret seeing the film, and I overall did like it. I hope it gets recognition during Oscar season. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Like, share, subscribe, I'm bad at outros, and I'll see you in whatever I do next.